We talk all the time about how there are two different divisions to communism. Always has been, everywhere it's ever been. There are the elites, the ones who actually hold power. There's only a few of those. Usually it's one, but sometimes it's a committee. And then there's the street animals. They need to go do the leg breaking, the vandalizing, the murdering, the hurting people. But they have to work together. You see, the street animals aren't going to do that if they go to prison every time they break the law. Breaking the law is what they do. You need the elites to get you out of jail. Happens all the time in every communist country, including right here in the United States of America. Joining me now, Dustin, Grage, columnist, good one from Townhall, to talk a little bit about this Minnesota story. Because, Dustin, I saw this interesting story. This man does $20,000 in damage to a Tesla, and he's not going to prison? Wow, he must have a great lawyer. What happened?
Yeah, I wish we all had that type of experience when we break the law, but it just isn't the case here. But in this instance, Mary Moriarty, she's a DA or a county attorney in this case. That's our term in Minnesota, for the prosecuting authority for Hennepin County, which includes Minneapolis and the greater Twin Cities. Ramsey's in there too, but Choi, a different attorney out there, is pretty similar. Not nearly as bad as Moriarty, but in this case, yeah, we basically are just given the green light here. Hey, liberals, if you do political activism and you commit some crimes in the process, we're going to let you off the hook. But of course, Mary Moriarty, and the reason you just know this is all political is because if a cop pulls a gun on someone who's threatening the life of the cop, she will go after them fully. She went after murder charges for a recent state trooper who ended up shooting an individual, a suspect, who ended up pulling the car and dragging an officer. One of the officers ended up shooting that individual to try to stop them because their lives are at stake there in that moment. The charges ultimately end up getting dropped at the end because there's no case. The only person who was actually pushing that forward was Moriarty herself. She ended up allocating millions of dollars for that case that never ended up coming to fruition because it was such a bad case. But she will go all in against someone in a law enforcement uniform. But when it comes to liberal activism, you're just going to walk free in these cases. And the real kicker here, in my opinion, Jesse, when you look at how they're diverting and getting out of charges here, they're going under a subdivision rule called diversion, which is basically create a supplementary program that basically says, well, if I agree to do these things, I'm going to be able to avoid criminal charges. Well, in that specific clause in Hennepin County's rules for eligibility, it caps it at $5,000 in property damage. This guy committed $20,000. That's 4 times the amount. But she's using diversion as the way and means to be able to avoid these charges. So across the board, it's absolutely insane. The only way to describe it is this is a Soros-backed county attorney who had $500,000 thrown into her campaign from supporting groups from him. And this is just the way it rolls when it comes to liberal activism in Minnesota.
God have mercy. Your AG ain't any better. Keith Ellison, people probably know the name. Here is old Keith on the television.
A biological male recently took first place in the girls' triple jump and is now in the school records for 3 girls' events. No one wants to see kids bullied or denied opportunities, but is it fair to the girls who have trained hard only to lose out to athletes with clear biological advantages? From their perspective, couldn't this be considered a form of bullying?
Well, I'm at a disadvantage because that particular case I'm not aware of. I do know of other children in that school district who are, 10, 9, 11, and they don't really care about winning. They just want to be on the team. We're talking about kids who have always identified as female, never have identified any other way, and they just want to be on the team. They're there just because they want to be a member of the team and learn something about sportsmanship and teamwork and cooperation, and which is really the real lessons of sports.
Dustin, I don't understand Minnesota. It's not California. It's not Connecticut. It's not one of these places, yet the most loony Democrats get elected in that state. I love Minnesota. I used to go muskie fishing in Minnesota. Could you please explain this to me?
Yeah, and, I love the sidebar clip there with Ellison and Jim Schultz. I actually ended up helping on that AG campaign, and how frustrating it is to see some of these voters vote the way that they do, especially when these were all warnings we put out there in that campaign. We explained step by step, hey, here's what's happening. But unfortunately, I mean, the real problem in the state ultimately is that every legacy media outlet, and I mean every single one of them, unless you're basically Dustin Grage or Alpha News or Michelle Tafoya, you're not getting the full story ever in any case. And what I love, at least about Tim Walz running for VP this last time, is it put a spotlight on all of this. I mean, you wouldn't know my name if Tim Walz never ran for VP. That's just the case. That's the reality. But people finally started paying attention to the state, and they started taking all this oppo that we have used up over all the years. It's been ignored for decades, but people finally picked up on it. And this is the beauty of it. I think going to the midterms, we're going to be in a much better position to win these seats. I mean, in that case, Ellison ended up losing by like 1 percentage point. Even though the top ticket member ended up almost losing by double digits. So we were really close in that race. And the other good news in Moriarty's case as well, now we have like a record with her. We have a record with Ellison, and it's a little bit longer. But also just we actually have the ability to get this oppo out there to the public, where in some cases we have a larger platform than the Star Tribune, depending if we're able to blow something up like this. And so the only way you guys know about this, it's because of X. It's because of the way we've been able to put this all together. But coming back to Ellison there with that case, I just have to laugh a little bit, because in committee, when Riley Gaines came to the state legislature here in Minnesota, we kept hearing from representatives on the Democrat side, well, this doesn't even happen. So this isn't an issue. There aren't boys competing in women's sports. But here we have the Attorney General of Minnesota not only saying, oh, I'm just learning about this instance of a boy winning the triple jump in a girls' competition. But by the way, I'm going to let you know that I know elementary and middle school level kids from the same school district who are currently doing it, and they will eventually be in high school and be able to compete in these sports. So before, it was never happening, but now it's happening at 3 different levels in the one school district. So it just find it fascinating that this has been their messaging the whole time, but now that it's actually come here, it's in front of their faces, and they have to address the issue, which is an 80-20 issue. Normal people don't agree with them on this. Now they're just avoiding it completely and just hoping for the best. But now's our opportunity. We can actually hammer down on these issues, bring them to the voters, and actually win these elections, and hopefully bring the state back to normalcy again.
Fingers crossed, because I like Minnesota. Dustin, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.